Palau, if you're a diver, it's a bucket list. It's one of the places in the world that you want to dive.
So one of the biggest problems that we are facing is the increase in water temperatures. Because we're near the tropics, we're 9 degrees north, right above the equator. We have a very narrow range of temperature. And so the corals are used to living in that temperature. So even if it's like 1 or 1.5 degrees higher from the mean for about a week, then corals start to bleach. And bleaching is this process where corals lose the algae living inside them and then they turn white. Most of the corals that bleach would eventually die of starvation. In 1998, we had a big bleaching event. In 2010, we had another bleaching event, a little bit smaller. And it took 9 to 12 years before the reefs came back. And so if we have more frequent bleaching events, then that would be harder for the reefs to recover. It's not enough time for the reefs to recover. And in 2015, even though we didn't have coral bleaching, we had another very strong El Nino, and we had a drought. And one of the lake here in Coral, the Jellyfish Lake, the jellyfish died. And the Jellyfish Lake, a lot of tourists come to Palau because this is one of the unique things that we have. And then once they die, the tourists didn't go to those sites because there's nothing to see. And so the economy, especially of course, lost millions of dollars.
Palau depends on the tourists that are coming here for the environment. And when the environment is suffering, of course you're not going to see the level of tourism that Palau experienced before. In the last, I would say 20 years, we could go and fish and really catch a lot of fish. Right now, and we kind of sit down, shaking our head, like, what's going on?
When I go fishing, I don't see that school of fish, just a few. I have to go with the boat to go far, so far.
Like half an hour away?
I go more than half an hour. I think it's because of the climate change, man. I truly believe that.
Palau heavily depends on imported food. And right now we want to make sure that we have food security. But it's difficult for us to work on ensuring a stronger, resilient agricultural sector when sea level rise is impacting taro patches, infecting taros, which is a main staple for Palau.
The seawater going inside my taro pots, all yellow. But the next day you go, all brown because very hot. So the taro is spoiled.
Can't eat.
Yeah, we can eat.
We're a resilient community and we want to be able to solve those issues. But when this is a global issue, it's really hard for us to say, so what are the solutions to these problems? And so we need to make sure that we always do things to mitigate those impacts into the environment. But when you have this kind of global impact, it's really hard for especially the local residents to understand.
It affects our economy, it affects our livelihood, it affects our security and safety. I always have hope that, I'm not one of those who believe that it doesn't matter what you do, everything is going to be destroyed. I believe that, yes, these are big issues, but there's research that we need to look at that maybe we can learn something that can help us.
Every time you watch the news, people talk about climate change, and they're talking about simply just water rising or temperatures, but nobody looks at the people. And if you go around the island, you'll see how their lives are actually affected. And it affects people who can't afford to live elsewhere. Because if you have money and means, you'll move. If you don't, what do you do?
That's the scary part, you know. They talk about climate change as something that's going to happen in decades and over, but you could really definitely see it, and it's fresh in people's memories, and they're confused. They're looking for answers, and so I think this is really an issue that the global community really has to take seriously.